When I wore the same shirt as my fiancée's childhood friend, she had her men strip the clothes right off his back on the spot. She then forced him to sign a written promise. A promise that he would never again use the same things as Ethan. Dozens of scornful eyes were fixed on him. His scalp tingled, and an overwhelming sense of humiliation, unlike anything he had ever felt, threatened to drown him. He gritted his teeth, signed the paper, and looked at Sarah, his eyes burning red. "Can I put my clothes back on now?" "Of course," Sarah said, slowly swirling the wine in her glass, a heart-shattering playfulness in her eyes. "But it's going to cost you." With that, she signaled a bodyguard to bring over a dog costume. "You love stealing Ethan's spotlight, don't you? Well, here's your chance. Put this on, and we'll call it even." A spotlight suddenly hit me, so blinding it took my breath away. It felt like it was pinning me to a pillar of shame for all to see. I had lost count of how many times Sarah had thrown away all sense of right and wrong for Ethan. At 18, Ethan bombed his SATs. Sarah swapped my scores with his, leaving me with nothing more than a high school diploma. At 20, Ethan was in a drunk driving accident. Without a second thought, Sarah sent me to prison to take the fall for him. At 23, Ethan plagiarized my design. Sarah paid off the media to flip the story, smearing my name and branding me as the plagiarist. And now, just because Ethan cried all night over a stupid shirt, Sarah was stripping me bare in front of everyone, letting these business partners leer at me. "What's the matter? You don't want to?" Sarah poured out her wine, her gaze so cold it made my heart tremble. "Fine, then we're nothing at all." The private room erupted in a roar of laughter. "Well, Sarah, looks like your little puppy isn't listening today. What do you know? I'll bet 100 grand he'll be on all fours, barking like a good boy in less than a minute. Why wait? Let's give him a little help, girls." Before I could react, Sarah's friends were forcing the dog costume onto me. They pinned me to the floor, their crude taunts filling the air. I struggled instinctively, but Sarah's icy voice cut through the noise. "Don't forget our arrangement." The color drained from my face, and I froze. When my mother remarried Sarah's father, Sarah had forced me to sign a one-sided contract. It demanded my complete obedience, or she would use the media to paint my mother as a homewrecker and destroy her. My mother was severely depressed back then, with strong suicidal tendencies. How could I risk Sarah provoking her? So I signed it, and from that day on, I became known in our circles as her ultimate lapdog. Whatever Sarah wanted, I gave. I don't know how I made it back to the Thompson estate. All I knew was that I was still in that humiliating dog costume. My body was covered in bruises, tears and blood streaking my face as I endured the cold stares of strangers on the street. My heart ached so much I could barely breathe, but the thought of my mother at home, arranging flowers and waiting happily for my return, brought a flicker of light to my dull eyes. I had just changed my clothes, composed myself, and forced a smile as I stepped into the yard. A sickening thud echoed through the air. A body fell from above, landing right at my feet. Terrified screams erupted around me. I slowly looked down, my pupils constricting in horror. There, among the vibrant green bushes, I saw my mother's face. Covered in blood, her eyes staring blankly, forever open. The image burned itself into my mind. "Mom!" I mumbled her name, the reality finally hitting me. A raw, tearing pain seized my heart, and I collapsed to my knees. Shaking uncontrollably, I took her hand. The icy coldness of her skin stole my breath, and a desperate scream tore from my throat. "Mom!" My mother's phone was still on, open to a news article about Sarah's father's affair. The headline read, "Miller mother and son, homewreckers who drove first wife to suicide, seduced Thompson family." Below the article were anonymously leaked hotel records between me and Sarah, along with videos of my public humiliations. The vicious comments below stabbed into my heart like shards of ice. No wonder Mr. Thompson got divorced. The Millers are just a pair of homewreckers. Shameless trash. Seducing the father wasn't enough. Now he's going after the daughter. It's worse than that. They drove the first wife to suicide. They're murderers. And in her last moments, my mother had left me a voice memo. The message was simple, but it shattered me completely. "Daniel, is my death the only way for you to have a future?" Filled with rage, I called Sarah, demanding to know why. Only she and her rich friends had those records and videos. But Sarah just scoffed. "Isn't it the truth? If your mother hadn't seduced my father, my mom would never have killed herself. It's a life for a life." A cold despair washed over me. It was Sarah's father who had relentlessly pursued my mother, pressuring her into marriage. How could Sarah not blame her own father, instead directing all her hatred of my mother and me? It was utterly insane. I performed CPR again and again, deluding myself, whispering to her, trying to will her eyes to open. I continued until my throat was raw and my eyes were swollen and bloodshot, until I was forced to accept that she was gone forever. Numbly, I cleaned the blood from her body and sat with her through the day and the night. My heart was dead. After the funeral, I made a call to the USA shooting national team. Coach Miller, I'll compete in the international championship. My mother had given her life to set me free. I would make every step forward count. Coach Miller was ecstatic. Daniel, you can't back out now. I'm making the arrangements as we speak. I looked down. I won't. The competition was in Vancouver, a city known for its relaxed pace. I planned to settle there after it was over. So, I went to the immigration office to start the paperwork. The process would take a month, so I booked a flight for a month from now. Just then, a notification for Sarah's latest post popped up on my phone. It was a humiliating photo of me from that night. It was placed in stark contrast to a handsome, suave picture of Ethan. The caption read, "A crow and a swan." Obviously, the swan has my heart. I stared at the screen for a long time, a bitter memory surfacing of how Sarah used to favor me in the same way. But her affection was always twisted. She would chase off my bullies, only to turn around and insult me herself. She would claim me as hers, then parade me around as a pathetic lapdog for everyone to scorn. She would confide her deepest secrets in me, yet always remained wary of my mother and me. I was 18 then, naive enough to believe Sarah was just an immature girl who needed to be shown kindness. That was until Ethan came back from abroad, and a drunk Sarah confessed, "Ethan, I've missed you so much." It was then I realized her hot and cold behavior was because she only ever saw me as a stand-in. After that, the last embers of affection I held for the girl who once tearfully shared her secrets with me turned to dust. Expressionless, I blocked them both and hailed a cab back to the estate to pack. The moment I walked in, I saw Sarah sitting in the living room, her face a thundercloud. She slapped the check down on the table in front of me. $10 million. Consider it compensation for you and your mother. I'll release a statement saying your mother's suicide was due to depression and had nothing to do with the Thompson family. Hearing this, I let out a bitter, angry laugh. What was this supposed to be? Hush money from a murderer? Without a second thought, I tore the check to pieces and turned to go upstairs. But Sarah shoved me hard. "Daniel, you made Ethan miserable. Why do you have to be angry? Or is 10 million not enough for you?" She threw a stack of cash in my face, her voice dripping with contempt. "The Thompsons have plenty of money, but if you think you're ever going to marry me, you can forget it." My cheek stung, but I looked calmly into her furious eyes. "Sarah, I never wanted to marry you, and my mother never wanted to marry your father." Seeing my defiance, Sarah's anger turned into a cold smile. "Daniel, don't think for a second that just because your mother is dead, I don't have ways to control you. I promise you will regret this." With that, she slammed the door and left. The next day, I was swarmed by reporters the moment I stepped outside. "Mr. Miller, is it true your mother was a homewrecker?" "Mr. Miller, Sarah Thompson has accused you of interfering with her engagement to the heir of the Davis family." "Any comment?" "Mr. Miller, is it true your mother killed herself out of shame after being caught in an affair?" The cold, venomous questions felt like they were piercing my eardrums. I quickly understood what was happening. My mother, alive or dead, was always my weakness, and Sarah, to maintain her control, was willing to slander a dead woman. I managed to get away from the reporters and rush to the nearest police station, but no one there would take my case. They even set the K-9 unit on me, and I had to run. I fell, bruising my arm badly. As the smear campaign against my mother grew more vicious, I called Sarah. Half an hour later, I was back at the club. The flashing lights illuminated a writhing crowd on the dance floor, a perfect picture of hedonism. Sarah was in the center booth, looking me over. "You have two choices. You can either keep being my dog, or I'll make sure your mother doesn't rest in peace." I felt an invisible hand clutch my heart and squeeze. But I couldn't afford to fight her yet. I had to get away. Biting the inside of my cheek, I nodded in humiliation. "I'll do what you say. Just please, keep your promise. Take down the articles." A faint smile touched Sarah's lips. "Then show me you mean it. Get on your knees and apologize to Ethan, right here, in front of everyone. Do that, and I'll let this go." My fingernails dug into my palms, but I felt nothing. I walked over to Ethan and fell to my knees with a thud, my voice trembling as I spoke. I am sorry. I shouldn't have worn the same shirt. I'm sorry for stealing your spotlight and upsetting you. Please forgive me. People around us started whispering, their eyes shifting between me and Ethan. Oh my God, I've never seen someone have to kneel and apologize for wearing the same shirt before. Sarah really spoils Ethan, doesn't she? A lapdog is a lapdog. He'll get nothing in the end. I knelt there, my heart feeling like it was bleeding out. Ethan, meanwhile, had a waiter bring 10 bottles of hard liquor to the table. He smiled sweetly. Daniel, drink all of these, and I'll forgive you. His innocent, boyish face was lit up with a bright smile, but I could see the malice and triumph gleaming in his eyes. I instinctively looked at Sarah, about to remind her that I was allergic to alcohol, but she cut me off as if she'd read my mind, a sneer on her lips. So what if you're allergic? Daniel, nobody here is going to baby you. Her words were laced with ice. It was as if she wasn't the same person who, years ago, had smashed a glass out of my hand, furious that I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't say another word. I just started drinking. The high-proof liquor burned like acid in my stomach. I gritted my teeth against the pain, a cold sweat breaking out on my forehead. 10 bottles later, whatever shred of connection was left between me and Sarah had been burned to ash. I fought back the nausea, my eyes bloodshot as I looked at her. Are you satisfied now? Satisfied? Sarah purred, melting into Ethan's arms. Honey, what else would you like him to do to make it up to you? Ethan's ears flushed, and he shot me a contemptuous look. How about we put him in a butler's uniform and have him provide some kneeling service for our friends? As if that wasn't enough, he added with a grin, Don't worry, Daniel. If you keep my friends happy, I'll have Sarah pay you for your time. How does $3,000 an hour sound? About the same price as that bottle of wine your mother stole from my family. At his words, the blood drained from my face. I was a student athlete. My tuition and training costs were astronomical. Back then, my father had just passed away, and there was no one to support us. To help me pursue my dream, my mother took a job as a housekeeper for the Davis family, where Ethan's father constantly harassed her. Ethan even framed her for theft and had her fired. My mother's life was one tragedy after another. Accused of stealing wine, then a husband, until she was finally driven to take her own life. The victim is gone, and the abuser feels no remorse. How ironic is that? I gritted my teeth, my voice sharp. My mother didn't steal any wine, and she damn well didn't steal anyone's husband. His words were met with another round of laughter. Only Sarah frowned. Daniel, are you still trying to deny it? Are you saying Ethan framed your mother? You'd better watch what you say. Slander is a crime. Then call the police, I said, looking at her coldly. Let them investigate who's really spreading rumors. Sarah gave me a mocking look. Too bad for you. This is Chicago, and I run this city. Do what Ethan says before I lose my patience. Tears welled in my eyes, but I resigned myself to my fate and put on the butler's uniform. My face was slapped, my hands forced to serve drinks laced with malice, and my pride was ground into dust. As the crowd thinned, Sarah finally spoke. Next time, it won't be this easy. Then, she and Ethan got into a car, their fingers laced together. The car soon began to rock, the sounds of their passion audible from outside. In a daze, my mind drifted back. I remembered Sarah forcing me into the back of a car, whispering cruel things in my ear as she took everything from me. I had thought back then that she must have felt something for me, that the guilt she felt over her own mother's death was what made her so cruel. I never imagined it was just pure revenge. Tears blur my vision. The world went black, and I collapsed. When I came to, I was suspended hundreds of feet in the air. The slightest glance down sent a terrifying wave of vertigo through me. My eyes widened in terror. I tried to scream for help, but with my mouth taped shut, only muffled sounds came out. The biting wind whipped against my thin clothes, making me swing precariously. A downpour started, and through the rain, I heard Sarah's voice, cold and sharp. Daniel, I really underestimated you. I tell you to come and apologize, and you show up with a hidden camera. But who do you think in this entire city would dare to cross the Thompson Corporation? Who would ever air that footage for you? Hearing that, a chill went down my spine. I should have known. Sarah had connections everywhere, legal and otherwise. No one would risk their life to cross her. But even so, I still had a sliver of hope. Hope that someone out there, like me, would be willing to walk into the darkness to find the justice that had been buried for so long. Sarah's voice cut through the air again. Daniel, you're going to pay for your stupidity. The rope holding me went slack, and I plummeted like I was on a free-fall ride. A sudden drop, then a slow rise back up. And then, when I least expected it, another violent drop. Over and over, each time it danced with death. Anger, despair, and a sense of injustice churned inside me. But I was denied even the right to scream. Was this how my mother felt in her final moments? This helpless? Is that why she chose to end it all? I don't know how long it was before the bodyguards finally pulled me back onto the roof. I collapsed onto the concrete, dazed, and slowly looked up at the woman standing over me. Bitter tears streamed down my face as I choked out a broken laugh. Sarah, what will it take for you to finally leave my mother and me in peace? I couldn't live like this anymore, waking up every day wondering if it would be my last. I didn't want my mother's memory to be tarnished by these vicious lies, and I refused to let the darkness of the world extinguish my own hope for something better. I just wanted to clear her name before I left, to follow my dreams, and to make my country proud. Seeing the desperation in my eyes, Sarah seemed agitated. She instinctively reached out a hand to me, but she caught herself, her expression hardening. Daniel, don't even think about getting away from me. Not in this lifetime. With that, she turned and walked away without a backward glance. I sat alone on that rooftop for a long time, not even noticing when she left. The next day, Sarah publicly announced her engagement to Ethan, and they left on a pre-wedding vacation. Beaches, oceans, sunsets, all became the backdrop for their love story. Meanwhile, my injuries healed quickly, and I checked myself out of the hospital. I went back to the Thompson estate to pack my things, then went for a hike deep in the mountains to clear my head. For the next week, my life was peaceful and quiet. But I never expected to run into Sarah, Ethan, and their friends out for a hike in the middle of nowhere. I tried to pretend I hadn't seen them, but Sarah spotted me. 100,000. You're our guy. Selfish. Arrogant. Entitled. I couldn't for the life of me understand what I had ever seen in her. Just as I was about to refuse, the sky lit up with a flash of lightning, a jagged sword tearing through the clouds. A loud crack echoed through the mountains. A tree on the ridge ahead of us exploded into splinters. Worse, sparks from the strike ignited the dry underbrush, and the forest around us began to burn. Run! I yelled instinctively and started running downhill. The others followed, but none could match my pace. In the chaos, some were swallowed by the flames. In the end, only Sarah and Ethan were still behind me. The intense heat was everywhere, blistering my exposed skin. Flames licked at my legs, leaving angry red marks. We were almost in the clear when a strong hand yanked me back. It was Sarah, her voice cold. Slow down. Ethan hurt his foot. I followed her gaze and let out a bitter laugh. It's a scratch. It's not even bleeding. You call that an injury. If they want to die out here, fine, but I didn't. Hearing this, Ethan's eyes welled up with tears. Sarah, am I holding you guys back? It's okay, you two go on. I'll catch up. Just then, a burning tree began to fall right towards us. Look out! Sarah shoved me forward into the path of the tree, using me as a shield while she pulled Ethan and ran for safety. She didn't hesitate, not for a second. And Ethan, safe in her arms, shot me a triumphant, mocking smile. She doesn't care if you live or die. In that moment, I could almost hear my heart shatter. A searing pain shot across my back, my vision tunneled to black, and I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I was wrapped in bandages, and every movement sent a sharp pain through my body. A doctor was speaking to Sarah. Mr. Miller's burns are too extensive. He'll need skin grafts. I expected Sarah to refuse, but she agreed. A flicker of something stirred in my dead heart, but her next words extinguished it completely. But do it without anesthesia. Whether he makes it through or not is up to him. My heart twisted in agony, my eyes burning. I managed to force out the words. Why? Her response was a furious accusation. You have the nerve to ask me why. If you hadn't run off without Ethan, he never would have been in danger. You should be grateful you took that hit for him. Otherwise, you'd be in the morgue right now. So I'll let you live, but you're going to live in agony. Every word was a dagger to the heart. I closed my eyes and started to laugh. A hollow, broken laugh that soon turned into sobs. Numb, like a soulless shell, I was wheeled into the operating room. The doors closed, and several nurses moved to restrain my arms and legs, strapping me to the table. I didn't fight them. I just lay there, staring blankly at the ceiling. The moment the scalpel touched my skin, a wave of excruciating pain washed over me. My body flinched, but I bit down hard and remained silent. The blade sliced through my skin, inch by inch. Blood flowed freely, staining the table beneath me. My knuckles were white as I gripped the side of the table, my nails digging into my own flesh, but I never made a sound. My consciousness began to fade, the only sound the cold, steady beeping of the machines. I was woken by the sound of nurses chatting nearby. Sarah is so good to Mr. Davis. She cleared out the entire penthouse floor for him, and she comes every day to feed him his meals. I know, right? I heard they're getting married in 2 weeks. They make such a beautiful couple. That Daniel Miller, the guy who tried to come between them, must be dying of jealousy. I lay there in silence, listening and counting down the days until I could leave. Exactly 2 weeks. The door to my room opened, and Ethan sauntered in. He looked perfectly healthy, not at all like someone who needed to be in a hospital. A small, bitter smile touched my lips. On the mountain, you were stalling on purpose, weren't you? I was, he admitted cheerfully, a smug smile on his face. Too bad you managed to survive. You see, Sarah loves me. You're just a toy she can throw away whenever she wants. How did you even last this long by her side? With that, he started slapping himself hard across the face. As he hit himself, he started crying out, "Daniel, if you're angry, take it out on me. I'll apologize, but please don't hurt my family. Wasn't it enough that your mother seduced my father? Now you're trying to tear my family apart too?" I was completely stunned. I reached out to stop him, but Sarah burst into the room and slapped my hand away. Ethan threw himself into her arms, looking terrified. "Sarah, I just came to see how he was doing, and he was so hostile. He said he was going to take you from me and take over the entire Davis family fortune. You know how my dad was with his mother. He'd never suspect him. What am I supposed to do? Sarah, please, can you talk to him?" Sarah looked at me in disbelief, her eyes blazing with a fire that seemed to fill the room. "Daniel, you are unbelievable." I opened my mouth to explain, but she wouldn't listen. She slapped me hard across the face, leaving my cheeks swollen and red. "You and your mother are two of a kind," she said coldly. "Trash. Why didn't she take you with her when she died? Since you love destroying families so much, I'm going to teach you a lesson." With that, she took Ethan's hand and walked out, not even sparing me a glance. My pupils contracted, the blood freezing in my veins. Because moments after she left, a group of large, menacing men stormed into my room. Their eyes were filled with malice as they ripped at my clothes and burned my skin with the hot ends of their cigarettes. My body shook uncontrollably as tears streamed down my face. "Sarah, please, don't leave me here." I lunged for the door, trying desperately to grab onto her as she left. But the moment my fingers brushed against her sleeve, she flung my hand away. "You made your bed, now lie in it." I fell to my knees, banging my head against the floor again and again. "Sarah, I was wrong. Please, let me out. They're going to kill me. Sarah." I screamed in pain and despair, tears and blood mixing as they fell to the floor. But Sarah just sneered. "Don't worry. Your life is worthless. No one will miss you when you're gone." With that, she walked away as if I were something disgusting she had scraped off her shoe. The men descended on me, dragging me back to the bed and beating me with brutal force. They even took pictures of me, beaten and dazed, and posted them online. Sarah's cruel words echoed in my head. "Don't worry. Your life is worthless. No one will miss you when you're gone." It felt like an invisible hand was squeezing my heart, the pain so intense I could barely breathe. Just as I was about to give up hope, a nurse and security guards burst in and chased the men away. My heart was dead. I had no tears left to cry. I curled up in a ball under the sheets, my body a canvas of pain. The only small mercy was that I was still alive. After some time, I numbly got up and walked to the window, looking up at the sky. If my mother could see me now, she would be so disappointed. As if drawn by some unseen connection, I found myself walking in a daze to the cemetery. I needed to see her, to tell her how much it all hurt, and to say one last goodbye. But when I got there, I saw a group of men digging up my mother's grave. The flowers I had left were trampled, and her picture on the headstone was caked with mud. My heart seized. I rushed forward, shoving them away. "What are you doing?" I screamed, my voice breaking. But I was no match for them. They dragged me aside and held me back as they continued to desecrate her grave. Didn't you learn your lesson last night? Sarah's mocking voice came from behind me. I turned to see her and Ethan holding hands. The sight stung my eyes and pierced my heart. Ethan smiled. Daniel, you really upset Sarah yesterday. After she punished you, she couldn't just forget about your mother, could she? Once Sarah's calmed down, I'll have someone fix up your mother's grave. How does that sound? His smug expression was infuriating, his words pure poison. I felt my blood run cold. I looked at Sarah in disbelief. Sarah, are you insane? Come after me if you want. What kind of monster digs up someone's grave? I screamed with every ounce of strength I had, but was drowned out by her quiet, simple command, keep digging. One of the workers held up my mother's urn. Miss Thompson, what should we do with this? No. I trembled violently, and with a sudden surge of adrenaline, I broke free. I snatched the urn, clutching it to my chest. Sarah, have you forgotten how she treated you? Who took you to the hospital when you had a fever in the middle of the night? Who learned to cook just for you? Who covered for you with your father when you got in trouble at school? Have you forgotten all of that? I couldn't forget. My mother always taught me that when you live in someone else's house, you have to know your place. So I always gave in to Sarah, always did everything I could for her. I even gave up my dreams, my future, just so she could win over Ethan. Even my mother tried to win her over, hoping that kindness could soften her heart. But my mother died without ever seeing a single moment of compassion from her. Seeing my red, swollen eyes, Sarah felt a rare pang of something that might have been pity. She instinctively reached out to wipe away my tears, just like she used to. But Ethan caught her hand. Sarah, he whined, I thought you were going to stand up for me. At his words, Sarah snapped back to reality and kicked me hard in the chest. What are you waiting for? She ordered coldly. Scatter that bitch's ashes. I fell to the ground, and they pried my fingers open. No, I struggled to get up, to get the urn back, but Sarah threw me aside. I could only watch as they poured my mother's ashes into the dirty, stinking river. In that moment, my heart stopped. I crawled, dazed, to the empty urn, the physical pain gone, replaced by a vast emptiness. Daniel, be strong. Daniel, I love you. Daniel, life is short. You have to be happy. My mother's words echoed in my ears like a mantra. So mortem, so tempting. So tempting that for a moment, I wanted to join her. Have you learned your lesson? Sarah's cold, selfish voice cut through my thoughts. But I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to respond. I didn't care what she was going to do next. She had already destroyed my world. Nothing else mattered. Seeing my indifference, Sarah's embarrassment turned to rage. Ethan, of course, fanned the flames. Sarah, it looks like he's not going to admit he was wrong. Is he challenging you? With a loud crack, Sarah kicked over the headstone, grinding my mother's picture into the dirt with her heel. Daniel, since you insist on doing this the hard way. The hard way. I looked up, a desolate smile on my face. I've admitted I was wrong. I've apologized. I've begged. Have you ever once let me go? I truly didn't understand. Why should the innocent have to kneel and beg for forgiveness? And why did the guilty walk free? This world was so damn unfair. I slowly got to my feet and looked her in the eye. So what is it this time? The butler uniform? Another beating? Or are you going to find someone else I love and destroy them too? I closed my eyes, exhausted, my voice a whisper on the wind. Sarah, I'm tired. Just kill me. For some reason, a flicker of unease went through Sarah. But Ethan piped up. Daniel, even if you're playing the victim, that's not a funny joke. It's not the end of the world. We were just having a little fun with you. No need to be so dramatic. Sarah, you're not falling for this, are you? The hesitation in Sarah's eyes vanished, replaced by a cold sneer. If you want to die, then die. She ordered the men to throw me into the open grave and bury me alive. The men hesitated, but Sarah's voice rang out. Bury him. I'll take full responsibility. She couldn't believe I wasn't afraid to die. But to her surprise, I didn't say a word. I just let them. The wet earth piled on top of me, but I never begged for mercy. Just as the dirt was about to cover my face, Sarah irritably called a halt. Daniel, I'll let you go this time. You can stay here tonight and think about what you've done. With that, she and Ethan left. I lay there, staring blankly up at the sky, letting the rain wash the tears from my face. My mind filled with memories of my mother. I loved bright flowers, so she planted a garden full of them. I loved to swing, so she built me a swing with her own hands and pushed me on it for hours. When I told her I was scared of the future, she would gently say, just do the right thing and don't worry about what comes next. She wasn't wrong, and I had learned my lessons well. But it seemed it wasn't enough to overcome the darkness before the dawn. As the first rays of dawn broke through the clouds and touched my face, I thought I heard her voice one last time. Daniel, be strong, be kind, be happy. In that moment, the darkness lifted and the sun broke through the clouds. I felt like I had been reborn. I looked at my phone, which was vibrating beside me. Mr. Miller, your immigration paperwork is complete. Please provide final confirmation. Daniel, the national team has sent a car. It's time to go. 2 hours later, I arrived at the place I had dreamed of for so long. The coach placed the team ID, once mine, around my neck. Daniel, welcome back. At the hospital, Sarah suddenly felt a sharp, hollowing ache in her chest. She frowned, a feeling washing over her that something precious had just slipped away. She gripped her phone, her thumb hovering over my name, about to call. But just as she hit the button, Ethan bumped into her. He yelped. In the process, her phone fell and was crushed under his foot. The call never connected. Ethan wrapped his arms around her. Sarah, who were you calling? No one, she said a little too quickly. Just remembered some work I forgot to do. The lie surprised even her as it left her lips. She felt like a cheating wife caught in the act, a pang of guilt striking her. Ethan didn't press the issue. Sarah, will you come to my family's dinner tonight? Of course, she said, her voice soft. That evening, not only were Ethan's parents at the Davis estate, but Sarah's father was there as well. Sarah was surprised. She had a feeling something important was about to happen. Sure enough, Ethan's father soon made a proposal. Sarah, since you and Ethan are already engaged, why don't we set a date for the wedding? Let's make this family official. His mother agreed. Yes, if that homewrecker hadn't gotten in the way, you two would have been married years ago. Now that you've gotten rid of him, it's time to celebrate. Hearing this, Sarah felt a strange sense of detachment. Homewrecker? Were they talking about me? Why did hearing that make her so uncomfortable? Seeing her distraction, Ethan's father frowned. Sarah, you do intend to marry our Ethan, don't you? The air grew thick with an awkward silence. Ethan quickly jumped in. Dad, Mom, there's no rush. I know Sarah won't let me down. He then turned to Sarah, a gentle smile on his face. Right, Sarah? Looking into Ethan's hopeful eyes, Sarah found her thoughts drifting to me. I had once looked at her with that same hopeful expression, asking cautiously, Sarah, will you really marry me? Back then, though she had feelings for me, the thought of my mother made her expression darken. Daniel, she had warned, you're getting ahead of yourself. But now, to Ethan, she gave a different answer. Yes. Throughout the rest of the dinner, Sarah was distracted. She agreed to every condition the Davis family proposed without a second thought. By the end of the night, a wedding date was set. As they were leaving, Ethan kissed her, his voice filled with emotion. Sarah, thank you for agreeing to marry me. She was finally marrying her first love, the boy she had adored for years, but her heart felt heavy, devoid of any joy. She took out her phone, her finger hovering over my name, but she couldn't bring herself to call. The night was cold, and memories fell with the rain. She had, at one point, actually liked my mother and me. The year my mother and I moved into the Thompson house was the same year she received news that her own mother had passed away abroad. From that moment on, she blamed us for her mother's death and made our lives a living hell. She had expected my mother to be like her father's other mistresses, to see her as a rival. And she saw me as the bastard son who was there to steal her inheritance. But my mother picked both of us up from school every day, cooked her favorite meals, and even knitted her a scarf for the winter. She was kinder and more attentive than Sarah's own mother had ever been. But still, Sarah was convinced we had ulterior motives. That is, until the day we were both kidnapped, and my mother came alone to rescue us, an act that landed her in the ICU for a month. During that month, Sarah's feelings were a tangled mess. For the first time in her life, she tried to cook, making a bowl of soup for my mother just the way she had seen her do it. My mother had looked at her, her eyes full of compassion. You poor child, you've been through so much. How could you not feel for a child who had grown up in such a hostile world? It was after that things between Sarah and me started to change. She stopped leaving for school an hour early, instead timing her departure to casually coincide with mine. She stopped ignoring the bullies who targeted me and instead pulled me into her circle, protecting me. She even started accepting my invitations to work a part-time job together, to go to a haunted house, to see the flower fields. Life started to have meaning. Sarah started to fall for me, but she was always stubborn, her words sharp even when her heart was soft, which often frustrated me. Once, she accidentally broke my favorite mug and refused to admit it. For the first time, I cried in front of her. It was the only gift my father ever gave me. In that moment, Sarah heard her own heart pounding in her chest. For the first time in her life, she felt flustered, helpless. Thinking back on it now, Sarah couldn't help but smile. But the smile quickly faded, leaving an emptiness in its wake. She lit a cigarette, annoyed, and through the smoke, she saw my warm smile. She picked up the phone and called her assistant. Order a new headstone for Daniel's mother. After she hung up, her first instinct was to tell me. She wanted to see my face light up, to see the gratitude in my eyes, to see the love she knew was there. But her pride wouldn't let her, so she had her assistant pass on the message. The assistant called back soon after. Miss Thompson, we can't reach Mr. Miller. Sarah's heart sank. What do you mean? Have you tried looking for him? He's blocked everyone. We've checked all his usual spots, even the cemetery. He's gone. Based on our findings, it looks like he's left the country. It felt like something inside her had just collapsed. She frantically texted and called me, only to realize I had already blocked her number. She sped back to the estate. Everything of mine was gone. My slippers, my mug, my clothes, all gone. Even my room was gathering dust. The only thing left was a shredded photograph in the trash can, a picture of the two of us when we were younger. She could just make out the words I had written on the back. Daniel and Sarah, forever. It had been my most sincere wish. And now, I had torn it to pieces and thrown it away like garbage. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. He's just angry, she told herself. He'll come back when he's cooled down. Yes, that's all it is. She was confident in her hold over me. Or maybe it was just that my past obedience had made her arrogant. So, she waited at the estate for a week. Every sound from the front door made her heart leap. But it was never me. Only the staff, or occasionally her father. Her anxiety grew with each passing day. Finally, Ethan came to see her. Sarah, you haven't wanted to see me at all lately. His words were a splash of cold water. Was she really letting me control her like this? The realization filled her with a humiliated rage. She ordered her assistant to find me and threw herself back into her life of carefree indulgence. For the next month, she and Ethan partied nonstop. Bars were their second home, liquor their daily bread. They even started gambling. They lived in a hazy, debauched blur, a conscious descent into chaos. But through it all, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about me. My warm smile, my gentle reassurances, my stubborn spirit. She wanted me in her bed. She wanted to force me to admit that I still loved her. If longing had a sound, hers would have been deafening. 3 months after I disappeared, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. But her assistant had news. Mr. Miller, he bought tickets to destinations all over the world. And someone is actively covering his tracks. We can't find him. With a crash, Sarah smashed a glass on her desk and grabbed her assistant by the collar. I don't care what it takes or how much it costs. Find him. If you can't find him, you're all fired. The assistant, terrified by her fury, stammered, but he wanted to say that even with all her power in Chicago, her reach didn't extend overseas. But one look at the murderous intent in her eyes, and he quickly relented. Yes, ma'am. After he left, Sarah sat alone in her study and smoked an entire pack of cigarettes. She tried to pinpoint the exact moment things had gone so wrong between us. It was probably the day Ethan came back. She had thrown a welcome home party for him, but hadn't invited me, afraid of how I might react. But that night, Ethan had asked her 3 questions. Sarah, have you forgotten how your mother died? How can you be with the son of the woman who killed her? Don't you think that would break her heart? Your father chose the homewrecker. Are you going to do the same? His words had made her skin crawl, 1,000 tiny ants chewing at her conscience. When she got back to the estate, I had confronted her. Sarah, why did you throw a party for Ethan behind my back? She knew I was jealous. Normally, that would have pleased her. But in that moment, she had pushed me away, her face cold. Do I need your permission to throw a party for the man I'm supposed to marry? The man I've loved for years? She could still remember the look of utter devastation on my face. What are you thinking about? The study door opened, and Ethan walked in, wearing a silk robe and nothing else. He smiled, coming up behind her and starting to massage her shoulders. Your assistant said you've been in a bad mood. Before he could finish, he saw her phone screen. It was a picture of the two of us. His smile froze, his voice rising in pitch. Sarah, what is this? It was like a bomb had gone off in Ethan's head. He had known something was wrong with Sarah lately. She had no interest in work, and she was drinking all the time. There were even rumors she was desperately searching for me. At first, He hadn't believed the rumors, but a seed of doubt had been planted. And once planted, a seed of doubt can only grow. So, seeing the proof that she was thinking of me behind his back, he felt himself start to unravel. Sarah quickly locked her phone, her voice soft as she tried to soothe him. "Ethan, let me explain. I was just..." But the words caught in her throat. "Just what? Just missing me a little? Just worried that I might be in trouble? Or was it that she wanted me in her bed?" It seemed all of them were true, and all of them pointed to the twisted state of her own heart. "Just what?" Ethan's eyes reddened. He took a deep breath. "Sarah, are you thinking about the past?" Before she could answer, he pulled her into a hug, his voice soft. "I am sorry, Sarah. It's all my fault. If I had never gone away to school, if I had been here with you all these years, then that manipulative bastard, Daniel, never would have had a chance to get his claws into you." His words were sincere, his tears hot and convincing. Although she bristled at him calling me a manipulative bastard, her guilt won out. She fell into his arms. "Ethan, it's not your fault. It's mine. I was weak. But please believe me. You're the one I've always loved." Ethan's tears turned to a smile. "I believe you. You were just using him as a stand-in for me, right?" For some reason, the words were hard to get out. Yes, he was just a stand-in. To prove her love, she deleted every photo of me and her right in front of him. But in the back of her mind, she thought it doesn't matter. When Daniel comes back, we'll just take new ones. But things didn't go according to plan. The next thing she knew, the Davis family was pressuring her to set a wedding date. After that night, Ethan struck while the iron was hot and pushed to move the wedding up. The wedding, originally planned for 6 months from now, was suddenly just 1 month away. He dragged her into the planning, obsessing over every detail. He wanted their wedding to be the event of the season. Sarah would often tease him, "What's the rush?" And he would always reply, with the utmost seriousness, "Because it's you. That's why it has to be perfect." In the past, that answer would have thrilled her, but now it just made her feel suffocated. She found herself comparing him to me. I had never pressured her like this. In fact, I had always been able to read her moods to know what she was feeling. I always knew what to say, what to do. She never had to tell me. If Ethan was the star of the show, I was the critic in the audience. I always watched, assessed, and made my choices from a distance. The thought sent a sharp pain through her heart, as if it were being squeezed in a vice. She felt a pang of pity for me, because only someone who doesn't feel loved is always ready to walk away. On the eve of the wedding, Sarah finally had a free moment and decided, on a whim, to surprise Ethan. Instead of calling, she decided to just show up. She went to the VIP lounge at the Thompson Tower downtown. The thought of the surprised and happy look on his face brought a small smile to her lips. But as she reached for the door, she heard voices from inside. "Ethan, no wonder you weren't worried about those rumors of Sarah and Daniel getting back together. You already had the bastard killed." Sarah's breath caught in her throat, her hand freezing on the doorknob. "What did he mean? Ethan had killed me? You're a genius. You've got Sarah wrapped around your finger, and you took care of the competition." Ethan laughed. "It was all thanks to Sarah, really. I just added a little fuel to the fire after she left. Had someone make sure that loser was buried for good. A dead man can't get back together with his ex, can he? Plus, I faked the whole he left the country thing. Even if she looks for him, she'll never find him. Eventually, she'll forget all about him. She'll feel so guilty. She'll be devoted to me for the rest of her life. Speaking of which, don't forget to come to the wedding tomorrow." Sarah stood frozen, not even noticing as her phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the floor. The voices inside stopped abruptly. "Who's there?" Ethan called out, his voice sharp. Sarah closed her eyes, turned, and walked away, her face as white as a sheet. Back in her penthouse office, Sarah's brow was furrowed in thought. Her assistant asked cautiously, "Miss Thompson, about the wedding tomorrow, is it still happening?" Everyone said she and Ethan were inseparable, but her assistant knew her feelings for me ran much deeper. Sarah was silent for a moment. Any news about Daniel? She couldn't believe that someone like me, a survivor, would have died so easily. Unless I had wanted to die. Suddenly, she remembered the last time she had seen me. Half buried in that grave, my face ashen, the light gone from my eyes. Despair. Her heart seemed to stop. An idea struck her, and she sped to the cemetery. Ignoring the groundskeeper, she ran to my mother's grave. She ordered the entire area to be searched, dug up if necessary, looking for any sign of me. 2 hours later, there was still no sign of me. But near my mother's grave, she found a bracelet. The one she had traveled halfway across the country to a temple in California to get for me when we were 16. All she had wanted then was for me to be safe and happy. And now, she didn't even know if I was alive or dead. In that moment, the fragile wall she had built around her heart finally crumbled. The good memories, the happy times, had built a palace in her heart, and I was its king. Now that I was gone, those memories felt like ghosts, unreal and distant. Desperate to hold on to them, she was forced to confront the truth of her feelings for me. And in that moment, a clear, undeniable truth rose from her subconscious. She couldn't live without me. She loved me. The panic in her heart grew until the ringing of her phone shattered the silence. It was Ethan, his voice bright and cheerful. "Sarah, our wedding is tomorrow. Are you nervous?" Her eyes were like ice, but her voice was as sweet as honey. "I can't wait." Her words sent him over the moon, and he spent the rest of the night dreaming of their wedding. The next day, the guests were assembled, and Sarah and Ethan arrived at the venue. As planned, Ethan stood at the end of the aisle, waiting for his bride. He could hear his friends in the crowd, their jokes and laughter feeding his ego. Leave it to Ethan. Dreamed of this for years, and now he's finally marrying his first love, the heir to the Davis fortune or the son of a homewrecker. Not a tough choice, is it? Hey, where's that lapdog Daniel today? He's usually glued to Sarah's side. Their talk was crude, and they started planning how they would torment me later. Every word grated on Sarah's ears. When they called me a lapdog one more time, something in her snapped. She stormed off the altar and into the crowd. She grabbed the man who had spoken and slapped him again and again until he was spitting blood. The sight of blood at the wedding sent the crowd into a panic. Sarah's friends rushed to pull her off him. "Sarah, stop. You're going to kill him." But Sarah was seeing red. Her mind flooded with images of all the humiliation I had endured over the years. Her heart ached so much she could hardly breathe. "Get out," she screamed. "If I ever hear any of you say a bad word about Daniel again, I'll run you out of this city." With a clatter, the ring box fell from Ethan's hand. He stood there, stunned, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Sarah, were you just defending Daniel?" He had been so happy, so excited for this moment. He had thought that today he would be the happiest man in Chicago. He never imagined his bride would cause a scene and ruin their wedding in front of everyone, all to defend her former lover. Sarah slowly turned, a smear of blood on her lips, her expression a mixture of defiance and despair. Seeing the tears welling in Ethan's eyes, she felt a surge of satisfaction and raised her voice for all to hear. "Everyone, the wedding is off. I'll send out new invitations when I find the real groom." And with that, under the shocked stares of hundreds of guests, she walked away. "Sarah, Sarah," no matter how desperately Ethan called after her, she didn't stop. He watched until she was out of sight, then collapsed to the floor. "How could this be happening?" he whispered, his voice hollow. Everything had been perfect. Why would she run out on him and say she was going to find the real groom? The cheerful music stopped abruptly. The large screen that had been displaying their wedding photos went black. A moment later, a heart-wrenching sob filled the silent hall. The screen flickered to life, displaying a horrifying video. It was footage of Ethan being brutally bullied during his time studying abroad. The Ethan in the video was a far cry from the arrogant young man they all knew. He was dragged into a bathroom, his head forced into a toilet, his hair hacked off in jagged chunks. In one clip, someone even put a snake in his backpack. He was shown beaten and bloody, kneeling and begging for mercy, a pathetic, broken figure. But then the video cut to footage of him back in Chicago, and he was a different person entirely, arrogant, cruel, and vicious. The victim had become the abuser. The same torments he had endured, he now inflicted on others. His victims were the illegitimate children of other prominent families, or anyone who happened to cross him. But his favorite target by far was me. A wave of whispers went through the crowd. "My God, I had no idea Ethan was so cruel. It's the classic 'I suffered, so now everyone else has to suffer' story." So Ethan was the one who came between Sarah and Daniel, not the other way around. How dare he call Daniel a homewrecker? The cold, harsh words of the crowd were like daggers in his ears. Some of his other victims were in the crowd, and they started throwing food at him. Ethan's face went pale as he was backed into a corner. "No," he screamed, tears of rage streaming down his face. "It's not true. The video is fake. I'm the victim here." But his denial only prompted more of his victims to stand up and speak out against him. The crowd turned on him completely. Just as he was about to break down completely, his father arrived. A flicker of hope lit up his eyes. "Dad!" His father's response was a sharp slap across the face. "You disgrace," his father roared. "Look what you've done." He threw a thick stack of terminated contracts at Ethan's feet. They were all from the families of the children he had bullied. What had started as a few canceled partnerships had turned into a flood. His father, livid, disowned him on the spot. The news that Ethan had been disowned spread like wildfire. He became a social outcast overnight. For the next month, he lived off his mother's charity, hiding out in a dingy hotel room. And Sarah manipulated the media, just as she had once done to my mother and me. She spent her days in a state of constant anxiety, waiting for any news of me. But each day ended in disappointment. So she threw herself back into her old habits, drinking, smoking, gambling. One drunken night, she got a call from an unknown number. She meant to decline it, but her drunken fingers hit accept instead. "Hello," she slurred into the phone. Silence. She was about to hang up when a thought cut through the alcoholic haze, sobering her instantly. "Daniel, is that you? You finally called me. Where are you? I'll come to you." She rambled on, her words tumbling out in a rush, but the other end remained silent. Then the line went dead. A moment later, a text came through from the same number. "The Omni, room 806. I'm waiting." A wave of joy, a feeling she hadn't felt in months, washed over her. Without a second thought, she rushed to the hotel. The moment she stepped inside, a pair of strong arms wrapped around her waist. "Sarah, I missed you." A thrill went down her spine. The voice, it was my voice. Just as she was about to turn, the room went dark. A fire ignited within her. She clung to the man in the darkness, her voice trembling. "Daniel, I missed you too. I'm so sorry. I know I was wrong. Please come back to me. I've been going crazy without you." In the darkness, his kisses were hungry, his breath hot and ragged against her skin. Ethan's eyes were red. He gripped the sheets, his knuckles white, his nails digging into his own skin. He had called her intending to play the victim, to beg for her forgiveness. But when he heard her whisper my name, he had frozen, unable to speak. But then a new plan formed in his mind. One night, that's all it would take. If he could get her pregnant, all his problems would disappear. The thought erased all his humiliation. He gave himself over to her, and they spent the entire night lost in each other. The next morning, he left early, quietly taking the hidden camera he had placed on the nightstand. The chaos in Chicago meant nothing to me, an ocean away in Vancouver. The day after I arrived, Coach Miller picked me up and took me to the training facility. I had been a prodigy, and even during the years I spent by Sarah's side, I never stopped my intense training regimen. Shooting was a part of me. But as a newcomer, an alternate handpicked by the top brass, I naturally drew some resentment from the other team members. So I moved out of the dorms and bought my own apartment. Between the money Sarah had thrown at me over the years and the inheritance my mother had left, I had more than enough. All told, I had a small fortune. It was more than enough to live comfortably. Desperate to earn my spot on the team, I spent the first 3 months training relentlessly. 6 months later, at the team trials, I delivered a performance that left no doubt in anyone's mind. I had earned my spot, and so began an even more grueling period of isolated training. I was at the range from 6 in the morning until 10 at night, putting in 2 more hours than anyone else. Even on holidays, I was at the range. I barely rested. A teammate tried to reason with me. "Daniel, you don't have to push yourself so hard. You're going to burn out." But I would just smile. The road to success is never easy. There were times I got injured, times I was overwhelmed with anxiety, times I wanted to quit. But then I would remember my mother's words, "Daniel, be strong." And I would grit my teeth and keep going. A year later, I represented my country and won the gold. I retired from competition, my mission accomplished. That night, the team threw a celebration party. For the first time in a long time, I shed my team uniform and bought a proper suit. It was the first time I had been to a mall since arriving in Vancouver. The party wasn't just for the shooting team. Athletes from every sport were there, along with the sponsors. But all eyes were on me. In my white suit, I felt like a different person, poised and confident. I felt like the man I was always meant to be. A little overwhelmed, I found a quiet corner to sit. But that didn't stop a steady stream of people from asking me to dance. Exhausted, I politely declined them all, using my old back injury as an excuse. Later in the evening, I slipped away to the rooftop. The cool night air was a welcome relief, the stars a brilliant canopy above. I remember an old story. They say that when you die, You become a star, watching over the ones you left behind. Mom, are you watching me now? Are you proud? I looked up at the stars, my eyes welling with tears. After a while, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned, surprised, and found myself looking into a pair of eyes that shone as brightly as the stars above. A woman smiled at me, her voice warm and melodic. "Excuse me, but have we met before?" I almost laughed. It was the oldest line in the book. But then I looked at her again, and a flicker of recognition sparked in my memory. For a moment, I found myself wanting to ask her the same question. Seeing my confusion, she took my hand and traced her name onto my palm. "Daniel," she said. "It's Chloe. Chloe." The name echoed in my memory. And suddenly, the woman in front of me merged with the memory of the little girl who used to live next door. Seeing her again, my melancholy vanished. "Chloe, is that really you?" Her eyes danced with amusement, but her tone was playfully reproachful. "Took you long enough to remember me." I felt a blush creep up my neck and looked down, a force of old habit. A moment later, she asked, "Want to get something to eat?" As if under a spell, I found myself nodding. 15 minutes later, we were at a late-night diner. I was surprised. "You remember this was my favorite kind of food." "Of course," she said, a constant, gentle smile on her face. "I remember everything you like." She seemed to be a regular. The owner came over, a friendly smile on his face. "The usual, Chloe?" She nodded, and he took our menus. I was a little confused. The Chloe I remembered was always so considerate, always asking what I wanted. And now, on our first meal in years, she hadn't even asked if there was anything I didn't eat. But when the food arrived, I realized I had been wrong. She had ordered all my childhood favorites. Her words echoed in my mind. "I remember everything you like." A warmth spread through my chest. Seeing that I hadn't touched my food, she grew anxious. "What's wrong? Is it not to your liking?" "Oh, it's my fault," she said, a guilty look on her face. "I was so focused on what you used to like, I forgot to ask what you like now." She called the owner back over and handed me a menu. I felt a lump form in my throat. I took the menu and ordered a few more dishes. Chloe looked surprised. I had ordered all of her old favorites. I smiled. "Now we're even. I only ordered what you used to like, without asking what you like now." She laughed softly. "Daniel, what I like hasn't changed. What I liked then, I still like now." After that night, we started spending more time together, going to concerts, watching games. I was surprised to find we had so much in common. We were kindred spirits. At first, I just saw her as a friend, the girl from next door all grown up. But the more time we spent together, the more I found my heart stirring in ways it hadn't in a long time. She noticed the little things, the details I myself often overlooked. She created special moments, the kind of simple joys I had been denied for so long. If Sarah was a hurricane, Chloe was a warm spring day. The realization that I was falling for her sent me into a panic. I ran. I cut off all contact, bought a plane ticket to a random destination, and just left. I traveled through vast, empty deserts, watching the sun set over endless horizons. I climbed to the highest peaks, looking down on the twinkling lights of cities below. I even went to a conflict zone as a photographer, capturing images of human suffering. But after 3 months, I still couldn't get her out of my head. Her gentle voice, her warm smile, the way she always seemed to put me first. I even found myself comparing her to Sarah, seeing all the ways Chloe was everything Sarah was not. After a long internal struggle, I finally booked a flight back to Vancouver. The moment I landed, I swapped my SIM card back to my old one. In the minute it took for my messages to load, I came up with 1,000 excuses to give her. But my phone grew hot in my hand as a flood of missed calls and unread messages poured in. They were all from Chloe. "Daniel, want to get dinner tonight? Daniel, are you busy? Daniel, where are you? You haven't been home in days. Daniel, did I do something to upset you? Daniel, I'm so worried. I'm going out of my mind. Daniel, please just let me know you're okay." I couldn't believe it. She had sent me over 20,000 messages, each one a piece of her heart, telling me, in no uncertain terms, that I was important to her, that she couldn't lose me. A shadow fell over me. I looked up and was suddenly pulled into a tight embrace. It was Chloe, holding me close, and my heart was a tangled mess of emotions. "Daniel, I missed you so much." Her voice was hoarse, as if she hadn't slept in days. But what worried me most was how hot she felt. I put a hand to her forehead. She was burning up. "Chloe, hang on. I'm taking you to the hospital." But she clung to me stubbornly. "Promise me you won't just disappear again." "Okay," I said. "I promise." Half an hour later, she was lying in a hospital bed, exhausted but still clinging to my hand. Her assistant approached me. "Mr. Miller, could I have a word with you?" I followed him out into the hallway. "What is it?" I had a feeling he was about to tell me something important. "Mr. Miller, I think this photo album will explain a lot." Confused, I opened the album. It was filled with pictures of me and Chloe from our childhood, and pictures of just me. On the back of every photo, in her neat handwriting, was a declaration of her love for me. For 8 years, she had loved only me. Tears blurred my vision, my voice trembling as I asked, "Then why didn't she ever try to find me? If she had found me sooner, would things have been different for my mother and me?" "After you moved," the assistant said, his voice full of regret, "Miss Morgan's congenital heart condition flared up. The stress was too much for her. Her parents were worried, so they brought her back to Vancouver for treatment. She was in a lot of pain. She spent her days searching for any news of you, all while undergoing treatment. No one thought she would last a month, but she held on, year after year, looking at your pictures. Fortunately, she finally got a heart transplant last year. The surgery was a success." He said more, but I couldn't hear him. I went back to her room, clutching the album, and sat by her side. Looking at her pale, drawn face, I was overwhelmed with guilt. "What are you crying about?" Chloe had woken up. She smiled, wiping a tear from my cheek. "Daniel, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault." In that moment, I felt like I was living in a movie. I pulled her into my arms, tears falling onto her shoulder. "I should have told you how I felt so much sooner," I whispered. After that day, we were inseparable. While my life had found a peaceful rhythm, Chicago was in chaos. Ethan had taken the video from their night together and stormed the Thompson estate, making Sarah's pregnancy public knowledge. The Thompson Corporation's stock plummeted overnight, finally getting her father's attention. He had her dragged home and forced her to kneel in the family chapel as penance. But she soon collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. When the doctor announced that due to her excessive drinking, the pregnancy was at risk and she might never be able to carry a child to term again, her father's face was a mask of fury. The next day, he summoned the Davis family to the estate. Ethan's father scoffed at the generous offer Mr. Thompson laid out. "Is that all, Thompson? You think you can buy us off so cheaply?" At his father's words, Ethan grew agitated. He tried to intervene, but a sharp look from his father silenced him. He fell silent. He had no desire to go back to being a penniless outcast. Mr. Thompson, a man who had weathered many storms, sneered. "That's the offer. Take it or leave it. But if you refuse, don't come crying to me when your grandchild is born out of wedlock." His confident smirk was a slap in the face to Ethan. Everyone used to say I was Sarah's lapdog. If this deal went through, Ethan would be taking my place. Swallowing his pride, Ethan gritted his teeth and signed the contract. "Mr. Thompson, as long as you let me marry Sarah, I don't need anything else." His sudden capitulation infuriated his parents, who stormed out of the room. A shrewd smile glinted in Mr. Thompson's eyes as he clapped Ethan on the shoulder. "Excellent. I admire a man who knows what he wants." Just as he was about to sign, Sarah's voice came from upstairs. "I don't agree." She looked nothing like her former self, her face pale and drawn. She stumbled down the stairs and ripped the contract to shreds. "Dad, I'll never marry anyone but Daniel." Her father slapped her across the face. "You ungrateful child. Are you trying to bring shame on this family?" She licked the blood from the corner of her mouth and laughed. A chilling, unhinged sound. "What do I care about this family? You didn't seem to care about the family's reputation when you sent my mother away." She looked down at her stomach. "And besides, I'm not having this baby." At her words, what little hope Ethan had left was brutally extinguished. He couldn't believe the woman he loved so much could hate him this much. Hate him enough to get rid of their child. "Sarah," he roared, his voice cracking. "How could you do this to me?" She looked at him with cold impatience. "Ethan, leave me alone, or you'll regret it." Her cold, cruel words were the final blow. He collapsed to the floor. "Why?" he sobbed. "Sarah, why are you doing this to me? We were supposed to get married. Why did you have to fall in love with him?" He still couldn't understand. She had hated me. Why the sudden change of heart? But then a thought struck him, and he began to laugh, a wild, triumphant sound. "But what does it matter if you love him now? He's dead. I had him buried alive." Sarah's face was grim. "You might want to check your sources. Your men never found him." As soon as she had heard his confession, she had sent her assistant to find the men he had hired. They reported back that when they arrived at the cemetery, I was already gone. As if to drive the point home, she called one of the hired thugs and put him on speaker. "Miss Thompson, please, leave us alone. We're telling you the truth. He was gone before we even got there. We never saw him." The color drained from Ethan's face. But the final nail in his coffin was the call Sarah's assistant made just then. "Miss Thompson, we found him." Sarah's heart, which had been dormant for so long, leaped in her chest. She quickly opened the file her assistant had sent. It was a video of an international shooting competition. In the video, I was a picture of calm focus, my movements precise and powerful. I was in my element, shining. A wave of complex emotions washed over her. She remembered me as a young prodigy at the top of my game, and she had forced me to give it all up. She had even said the most vile thing to me. "I'm going to destroy your future, your pride. You're going to spend the rest of your life rotting in the gutter." She could still see the look of utter devastation on my face. The pleasure she had taken in my pain then was matched only by the regret she felt now. Ignoring the protests of everyone in the room, she ordered her assistant, "Get the jet ready. I'm going to see him. Now." But as she rushed for the door, a sharp pain exploded at the back of her head. With a crash, glass shattered. She slowly turned, her eyes wide with disbelief and a dawning horror. The person who had thrown the vase at her was her own father. His face was a cold, hard mask. "I will not let you disgrace this family." Before she lost consciousness, she heard him order the staff to lock her in her room. And Ethan, it seemed, was now officially the Thompson family's son-in-law. When she woke up, she was chained like an animal in a windowless storage room. She screamed until her throat was raw, but no one came. Only the staff who brought her meals, and Ethan, who still hadn't given up. She lay on the floor, exhausted, her body covered in bruises from her attempts to escape. Ethan gently touched her bruises, his voice pleading. "Sarah, please, stop hurting yourself. He's not worth it. Your father has already announced that we're married. Nothing you do will change his mind." His eyes filled with tears, his heart breaking. He resented her for choosing me, for wanting him gone, but he still loved her. She turned her head away, refusing to even look at him. "Get out." Her eyes were lifeless, her spirit broken. She had had a lot of time to think. How to escape this prison of a house. How to get to me, and what she would say to me when she found me. And as she thought, she began to understand what my life had been like. Trapped in hell. It must have been so painful. Seeing her unresponsiveness, Ethan finally snapped. He pulled up a news article on his phone and threw it at her. "Sarah, open your eyes and look. The man you're so obsessed with is engaged to another woman." The photo on the screen shocked her back to life. Her knuckles were white as she gripped the phone, her voice a strangled whisper. "No, it's not possible. You're lying. Daniel loves me. He would never marry someone else. He told me he wanted to marry me, that I was the only one for him." With a crack, she smashed the phone against the wall and lunged at Ethan, her hands closing around his throat. "Tell me it's a lie," she shrieked. "You're all lying to me." His face turned red as he clawed at her hands. "Sarah, let go. He doesn't love you anymore." His words only fueled her rage. "He would never have left me if it wasn't for you. He must have found out I was pregnant. That's why he's with her, to spite me. Yes, that has to be it. That's it." In a frenzy, she threw him out of the room and, with a desperate cry, leaped from the second-story window. Her leg was bleeding, and a sharp, tearing pain shot through her lower abdomen, drenching her in a cold sweat. "Huh!" she screamed up at him. "Ethan, I will never have this baby." The staff rushed out, horrified by the sight of the blood. A bodyguard finally had the presence of mind to call an ambulance. But on the way to the hospital, she jumped from the moving ambulance and made her way to the airport. Even after a minor car accident, she kept going, stumbling but determined. The moment she stepped onto the plane, her despair vanished, replaced by a certainty that she could win me back. She showed my picture to anyone who would look. "This is my husband," she would say. The congratulations of strangers fed her delusion, and she began to believe it herself. But when she landed in Vancouver and found my apartment, she was forced to face the truth. I was really getting married. In a rage, she shoved Chloe aside. "Get away from him," she screamed. "He's mine." When I saw who it was, my expression hardened. "Sarah, what are you doing here? Shouldn't she be in Chicago, planning her wedding to Ethan? Why was she here?" Before I could make sense of it, she grabbed my wrist and tried to pull me away. "Daniel, don't worry. I'm taking you home." I pulled my arm free. "Sarah, what are you talking about? Are you crazy?" I went to Chloe's side. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice full of concern. She smiled and shook her head. "I'm fine." Then she turned to Sarah, her expression hardening. Let me introduce myself. I am Chloe, Daniel's fiancée. Chloe had looked into Sarah's past long ago. She knew exactly what kind of person she was. She knew that Sarah was responsible for so much of my pain. And now, before Chloe could even think about settling the score, Sarah had shown up on our doorstep. The sky was a strange, unsettling mix of sun and dark clouds, a storm brewing on the horizon. Just as Sarah was about to respond, I cut her off, my voice cold. Sarah, you shouldn't be here. Please leave. I turned to Chloe, my expression softening as I took her hand. Chloe, let's go inside. I'm not leaving. Sarah shrieked, blocking the doorway like a cornered animal. But when she met my icy gaze, her defiance crumbled, and she began to beg. Daniel, I know I was wrong. I'm so sorry for everything. Please, can you forgive me? I'll do anything. Just tell me what you want. Didn't you always want to marry me? I'm allowing you to marry me now. Sarah thought I was just being difficult, playing hard to get. She believed a few apologies and sweet words would melt away any lingering resentment. But she found no trace of the longing she expected in my eyes. Instead, the disgust I felt was palpable, almost murderous. I turned to Chloe, my voice gentle. Chloe, let me handle this. Then, without a moment's hesitation, I turned and slapped Sarah across the face, then signaled for security to remove her. Make sure you remember her face, I told the guards. If she shows up again, call the police immediately. I wouldn't even speak to her. Forgiveness was out of the question. Daniel! Daniel! Sarah watched, screaming my name until her throat was raw, as the man she loved walked away, hand in hand with another woman, without a single backward glance. Thunder cracked, lightning flashed, and a torrential downpour began. Sarah wandered aimlessly through the streets, everyone giving her a wide berth, as if she were a madwoman. When a few kind strangers tried to offer help, she lashed out, attacking them. She ended up spending a month in jail. When she was finally released, she was gaunt and a shadow of her former self. She turned on her phone, only to find the internet ablaze with news of her miscarriage. Watching Ethan break down in tears during an interview, publicly accusing her, Sarah felt a perverse sense of satisfaction. A year later, she logged back into her Twitter account and posted an update. Homewreckers and bastards don't deserve to stand with me. Back in Chicago, Ethan quickly used Sarah's tweet to pinpoint her location. That very night, he flew to Vancouver. Ethan didn't go looking for Sarah. He came straight to me. $10 million. Leave Sarah. He tossed a bank card onto the table in front of me, his sunglasses still on, an arrogant smirk on his face. I stared at the card, and a laugh escaped me. When my mother died, Sarah offered me $10 million to keep quiet and protect her family's name. Now Ethan was offering me $10 million to buy his own happiness. $10 million. It seemed to be a magic number, a number that separated the rich from the poor and right from wrong. Ethan frowned, annoyed. What's so funny? Is $10 million not enough? Do you want more? His arrogance was identical to Sarah's. I scoffed. You and Sarah truly deserve each other. Ethan missed the sarcasm, assuming I was just greedy. He puffed out his chest, pleased with himself. But then I pushed the card back across the table. You can leave, I said, my voice flat. Sarah's choices are not mine to make. Ethan's face flushed with rage. Daniel, are you trying to rub it in my face that Sarah is obsessed with you? You're nothing but a homewrecker's son. What right do you have to be near Sarah? A sharp crack echoed through the cafe. Before he could finish, I slapped him across the face. The calm in my eyes finally broke. I told you, I said, my voice low. My mother was not a homewrecker. If I ever hear you slander her name again, I will sue you for defamation. With that, I stood up to leave. Ethan, consumed by rage, grabbed the steaming teapot from the table, intending to smash it against the back of my head. Just then, the cafe door burst open. Look out! Chloe rushed forward, instinctively shielding me. A muffled scream filled the air. My heart clenched, and I immediately checked Chloe for injuries. But she was unharmed. The scream had come from Sarah. The scalding water had splashed across her face, running down her forehead and neck, hot enough to peel away her skin. Her face contorted in agony. She writhed on the floor, but her eyes, filled with a desperate hope, were fixed on me. Sarah had even prepared words of comfort for me, but I didn't spare her a glance. The Daniel who once looked at her with such devotion was now showering another woman with concern. A crushing wave of defeat pierced her heart. Sarah had to admit it. I truly no longer loved her. Sarah watched me walk away with Chloe, her heart aching as if it had been ripped from her chest. Ethan stood frozen in terror. It took him a long moment to remember to call for help. He rushed to Sarah's side, his trembling hands reaching for her burns. But the moment he touched her, she gasped in pain, and he recoiled in a panic. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was you. But why did you jump in front of that loser? Wouldn't it have been better if he just died?" The more Ethan thought about it, the angrier he became, his jealousy consuming him. He ranted, completely oblivious to Sarah's pain. Finally, Sarah, unable to bear it any longer, gritted her teeth and hissed, "Get out." Only then did Ethan notice the pus oozing from her burns. Sarah's eyes rolled back, and she passed out. When she woke up again, her face was tightly swathed in bandages, only her eyes and nostrils visible. Her face was completely disfigured. "It's ruined. It's all ruined. Daniel loved my face. He'll never love me now. What's the point of living?" She thrashed wildly, smashing everything she could reach in the room, her eyes burning with a desperate fury. Her assistant cautiously handed her a document, his head bowed low. "Miss Thompson, your father has disowned you. You are no longer the heir to the Thompson Corporation. This contract formalizes the termination of your father-daughter relationship." His voice grew softer, fearing her reaction. As expected, Sarah's eyes blazed with fury, and she tore the contract to shreds. "My mother built the Thompson Corporation. How can he just take it away from me? Who else is there to inherit it?" She screamed, she raged, she broke down. This was the darkest moment of her life. But the assistant, in a monotone voice, continued, "Your father has been grooming a new heir, an illegitimate son, raised outside the family. He's your age." The words exploded in her ears like bombs. Sarah was stunned. Overnight, streaks of white appeared in her hair. All her pride, all her confidence shattered. From outside the hospital room, she heard my gentle voice. I was with Chloe, helping her with her discharge papers, my tenderness, a poisoned dagger twisting in Sarah's heart. She saw me of years ago, the young man in a crisp white shirt, a carefree smile on his face, calling out to her with such warmth. "Sarah, I hope you're always safe and happy." That was the look of being loved, just like the smile I now gave Chloe. Sarah gave up. "Liquidate all my assets," she told her assistant. "Transfer the money to Daniel's account." Every time she had sent me money before, it had been to humiliate me. Who would have thought this time it was to help me? But the day after the money was transferred, Sarah saw the news. I had donated all the money she sent to a women's and children's protection charity. In an interview, I spoke earnestly. The safety of women and children is something society desperately needs to address. I implore every woman and child suffering out there to find a way to save themselves. My powerful words were as much for myself as for anyone else. My eyes were moist, and I was profoundly grateful to have survived. Stepping out of the interview room, my eyes immediately found Chloe in the crowd. She smiled, walked towards me, draped a coat over my shoulders, and squeezed my hand. "Come on, let's get some food." The car sped through the city, finally pulling up to the Morgan family estate. I was a little confused. Why are we? It's a bit embarrassing, really. We've been together for so long, and we're engaged, but you haven't met my parents yet. Chloe smiled gently, pulling several gift bags from the trunk. "Don't worry, I've taken care of everything. It's just dinner. No need to be nervous." Her words eased my nerves. It felt like a steady anchor had dropped in my heart. Chloe's parents were incredibly warm, completely without the pretense of their wealth. Her mother, especially, held my hand and chatted with me for ages. As we were leaving, her parents took me aside to the study and solemnly presented me with a jade pendant. "This pendant is a Morgan family heirloom," her father said. "We'd like you to have it." "Son," her mother added, her eyes soft. "You and Chloe have both been through so much." The compassion in her mother's eyes was almost overwhelming. My eyes welled up. "Thank you, Mrs. Morgan." I knew the difference between genuine kindness and false pretense. And because of that, my thoughts drifted to my own mother. She, too, had always wanted to give me the world. No matter how successful I became, she always worried about the hardships I had faced. Back at the apartment that night, I couldn't sleep. Noticing my somber mood, Chloe asked, "What's wrong? Did my parents say something to upset you?" "No," I shook my head. "Your mother was right. You, me, us, we've been through so much." My unspeakable past, her past constantly shadowed by illness. It was all so hard. Even if it led to something beautiful, I wish we had never had to endure it. I pulled Chloe into a hug, my voice firm. Chloe, let's get married. She looked surprised. So sudden. I guess. I just want to build a home with you. When Sarah heard that I was marrying Chloe in a month, she locked herself away for 3 days. During that time, no matter how Ethan tried to console her, she wouldn't even look at him. Ethan had never been treated like this in his life. Besides, Sarah was bankrupt, disfigured, and in love with another man. He told himself he had done more than enough. His friends back in Chicago kept texting him, urging him to come home, appealing to his sense of reason. Even his mother called. Ethan, you're young, handsome, educated. Why waste your life on a broken woman like Sarah? Listen to your mother. Come home. Whether it's an arranged marriage or building your own empire, you have a future here. But he was stubborn, determined to walk his chosen path to its bitter end. When Sarah still refused to acknowledge him, Ethan's pride shattered. He smashed the lunchbox he was holding, then stormed over to Sarah. Sarah, can't you even look at me? He's not the only man in the world. I'm the one who truly loves you. Why are you doing this to me? He slid down the wall, covering his face, sobbing uncontrollably. I can't take it anymore. I really can't. But Sarah ignored him, as if he wasn't even there. She even lay down and went to sleep, completely unfazed by his cries. He was reduced to a pathetic, resentful shell of a man. Staring at Sarah's indifferent back, Ethan's hatred for me intensified. The news of my upcoming marriage to Chloe Morgan, the heiress, played on the television. Everything seemed to mock his failures. He took one last look at Sarah, and a bold, desperate plan formed in his mind. The next morning, I had just seen Chloe off to work and was about to go back to bed when the doorbell rang. I sighed, annoyed, and opened the door. Forgot your keys again. Chloe, who are you? A group of burly men instantly knocked me unconscious. 2 hours later, I woke up in an abandoned factory, strapped to a chair, with bombs taped all over my body. Even worse, a timer on one of the bombs was counting down. 30 minutes. That's all I had left before I was blown to bits in this desolate place. Help! Is anyone there? Help me! I screamed until my throat was raw, but the only answer was the echo of my own voice. Just as despair began to set in, the door was violently kicked open. Ethan walked in, a triumphant smirk on his face, and slapped me hard across the face. You piece of trash. If you hadn't seduced Sarah, I would have married her years ago. It's all your fault Sarah is like this, a shell of her former self. He was practically vibrating with rage, his chest heaving. I tried to calm him. Ethan, calm down. You have your whole life ahead of you. Why are you wasting it on someone like Sarah? My words only enraged him further, and he slapped me again. Hypocrite. Everyone else can tell me to turn my life around, but you have no right. Daniel, before you showed up, do you know how much Sarah loved me? Ethan was lost in a nostalgic reverie, recalling his happy memories with Sarah. But with every word he spoke, the timer on the bomb ticked down faster. I was drenched in sweat, my fear and longing for Chloe growing exponentially. Fear of my life ending, longing for the life I had built with Chloe. With only 10 minutes left on the timer, I heard Sarah's and Chloe's voices from the doorway. Let him go. Seeing me strapped to bombs, Chloe's blood ran cold. Daniel, don't come any closer. Ethan snarled, holding up a remote control. One more step, and I'll blow him up. Chloe and Sarah froze. Sarah's face was grim. Ethan, what do you want? What do I want? Ethan burst into maniacal laughter. I want to grow old with you, Sarah. To be together forever. Sarah, promise to marry me. Promise to love only me for the rest of your life. And I'll let Daniel go. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then agreed. Fiancée, I'll marry you. Just let Daniel go. The sound of my name seemed to trigger something in Ethan. He suddenly went wild. Stop. Sarah, do you think I'm stupid enough to believe you? He threw a contract at Sarah's feet, then forced a pill into my mouth. Sign this agreement, promising your loyalty to me alone for the rest of your life. Otherwise, Daniel will die from the poison because he won't get the antidote. That was a potent poison I had specially brought back from the Northwest. If he doesn't get the antidote in time, he'll bleed from every orifice and die a horrible death. With only 2 minutes left on the bomb's timer, Sarah didn't hesitate. She snatched the contract and signed it. As Ethan was distracted, checking the contract, Chloe swiftly kicked the remote control from his hand. Then, she quickly untied me. Sirens wailed in the distance, but the timer was down to 30 seconds. In a split second, Sarah tackled Ethan to the ground. Go, get Daniel out of here. Chloe and Sarah, destined rivals, shared a moment of unspoken understanding. Their shared goal was clear: protect me. Chloe didn't hesitate. She grabbed my hand and pulled me towards the exit. Miraculously, we escaped the blast zone just a second before the explosion. But Sarah and Ethan were gone, lost forever in the rubble. Once we were safe, I frantically checked Chloe for injuries. My eyes filled with tears, a profound fear of loss washing over me. "I'm so sorry," I choked out. "I dragged you into this." The moment I saw Chloe rush into that factory, I felt a terror unlike any I had ever known. I'd already lost one person I loved. I couldn't bear to lose another. Perhaps a higher power had heard my prayers, and we had escaped death. Chloe gently wiped the tears from my eyes. "Daniel," she whispered, "it's not your fault. You don't need to apologize. The fault lies with Ethan and with those who hurt you. Don't feel guilty for their actions." For the next 3 days, Chloe and I were constantly shuttling between the hospital and the police station. After the case was closed, I went back to the police station one last time. "Mr. Miller," the officer said, "the deceased, Sarah Thompson, had you listed as her emergency contact. We haven't been able to reach her family. Would you be willing to claim her body?" This time, there was no anger, no sorrow. I calmly claimed Sarah's body and arranged a dignified funeral. Let all the past love, hate, and bitterness finally fade away. Because of Sarah's funeral, Chloe and my wedding was postponed for 6 months. During those 6 months, I reevaluated my career path. Though I had retired from competition, my passion for shooting remained. So, I began studying for my referee and coaching certifications. 3 months later, I passed with the highest score and was offered a position as a coach for the national team. Chloe proudly told everyone, "My husband is a national hero." Her parents boasted to anyone who would listen, "Our son-in-law is a world champion." Soon, my name was known throughout the upper echelons of society. Even curious socialites investigated my past in Chicago and were instantly captivated. One of them even posted a long thread on Twitter presenting a clear chain of evidence that vindicated my mother and me. The Thompson Corporation's stock plummeted overnight, eventually teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. The justice I had longed for had finally arrived. But I couldn't help but reflect, it seems people are only good to you when you're successful. Chloe just smiled. "Don't be so cynical, silly." The wedding day arrived quickly. In the hotel ballroom, booked and decorated 6 months in advance, I stood before a mirror in my white suit, lost in thought. Many years ago, on this very day, I had given up on love, never dreaming I would ever wear a suit and marry the woman I loved. Countless sleepless nights, a million thoughts of ending it all. But I had survived them all, only because a voice in my heart had always guided me. Be strong, be brave, be happy. So I endured for many years. And finally, happiness had arrived. "Daniel, are you ready?" The door behind me opened. I turned to see Chloe. Her beautiful face was radiant with a gentle smile, her eyes sparkling as she gazed at me. "Daniel, you look so handsome." I felt a blush creep up my neck, but I teased back. "Only today?" Chloe shook her head, her expression serious. "You're always handsome, Daniel, but today in your wedding suit, you're even more so. To think I'm actually marrying you. It feels like a dream come true. Daniel, you know, I liked you from the very first moment I saw you." Looking at her sincere face, my heart was a mix of joy and a lingering ache. I remembered Chloe's mother's words. "Child, you and Chloe have both been through so much." But now, the suffering was over and joy had come. "Ready?" Chloe whispered. "Once we walk through this door, you'll officially be my husband." I looked at the nervous woman before me and took her hand. Chloe smiled, a knowing, happy smile, and walked out with me. The wedding march began, the doors slowly opened, and we walked out hand in hand. Guests on both sides of the aisle whispered, "They're so perfect together. A match made in heaven. A world champion and a top socialite. What a story. I heard they had a thing for each other years ago. Who would have thought they'd find their way back? It's fate." Amidst cheers and applause, we exchanged rings, embraced, and kissed. As the final part of the ceremony concluded, Chloe suddenly took the microphone from the officiant and announced the results of our prenuptial agreement. She had transferred all her assets into my name. "Daniel," she said, her voice clear, "I know this might seem tacky, but I want to give you everything I have. Thank you for fighting your way back to me." The entire room erupted in gasps and murmurs. But I knew, more than any legal document, it was Chloe's unwavering love that truly moved me. She was declaring to the world that everything she had was mine. Amidst the joyful noise, I looked out the window at the sky. "Mom, look, There's another person in this world who loves me.